Well, howdy friends, Brian Flechsig, a Mad River Outfitters in the Midwest Fly Fishing Schools, and welcome back to another one of our Q&A videos. You know, a couple quick ones today, and one's going to be a little throwback to some recent video that we just did. But the first question comes to us from David Hulsinger from Mountain Home, Idaho. And David says to me that he is new to fly fishing as of this summer, so welcome aboard, David. And I have watched a lot of your videos and learned a lot. Thank you. Well, thank you for watching. We appreciate that. So my question is, keeping the fly dry, using fly dressings, dry fly silicone, powder, or gel, which is best, and what's the proper way to use them? Thank you for your time, David Hulsinger. Well, David, a good question, and it's one that we actually get pretty often, and I know folks are a little bit confused by some of the different choices that are out there. So let me try to summarize it here. First of all, not one of them is best, okay? They all kind of have a reason and slightly different applications, and then I will teach you the proper way, because boy, if these things are mishandled, a lot can go wrong. Anyhow, in all seriousness, first and foremost, the gel, okay? Gink. Gink is the world's most famous and also world's best dry fly dressing. It says so right there on the label. So I digress. I guess there is a best. Gink is kind of always what we used when we were younger. It was kind of like the fly floatant to have on the market, and it is a silicone paste or a gel. And in fact, gink is so synonymous with keeping a dry fly afloat that it became a noun. It's a noun that became a verb. You would call it ginking your fly. You need to gink that fly so it floats. But also along comes the high and dry gel floatant. High and Dry is a company that we do a lot of business with, a good group of chemists that came up with a line of amazing fly floatants. And although gink is great, I think that High and Dry is probably a little bit better. The High and Dry does not solidify when it gets really cold, and it also does not liquefy too much. It does a little bit. It does more than they tell you in their literature, but it's not as bad as the gink and some of the others. To be honest with you, I use it mostly for greasing the tip of my fly line. I like to kind of coat the tip of my fly line, and there's a lot of leaders that I use. Certain dry fly leaders, some furled leaders, and airflow poly leaders, and I use the gel on the tip of my line and the butt sections of my leaders more than I do on flies. Now, it is good for poppers. Even though they may not need it, it can kind of help them float a little bit higher and better. They pop up to the surface a little bit better on sliders. And I also use this on hair bugs. The Umpqua swimming frog, Dahlberg divers, Dave Whitlock's fruit cocktail hair bugs, some of my favorite bass flies, and the gel definitely works best, and I coat the face of the popper and the underside of the popper. Now, the floatants that you see used most often are the liquids, and for good reason. It's super easy, and they really, really work. The gel, if you're coating up a dry fly, the gel can kind of mat up the fly a little bit. I don't like that. Whereas you dip it in here, you pull it out, you kind of blow on it, false cast it a couple of times to dry it off, and it really floats flies like a cork. In fact, one of our guides, this is the Fly Agra. I think you've heard me talk about this stuff before, but the Fly Agra is designed to fix your fly dysfunction, and it is just a liquid. You take your fly and dip it in there. A lot of times you can just push it in with your tippet, or take your hemostats and dip it down in there, swish it around for a second, and off you go. Again, I usually blow on it, false cast it a couple of times, which is really the only reason you should ever be false casting, is to dry off a dry fly. But the High and Dry, this stuff is actually fairly flammable. And we're not allowed to ship this second day air. We're not allowed to ship it internationally. Whereas the High and Dry, I think it works nearly as good. One of our guides will tell you that Flyagra will float split shot if you wanted to. The high and dry is non-toxic, it's not flammable, and it works really, really well. I probably find myself using the high and dry a little bit more than I do Flyagra these days. Another cool thing about the liquids is for dry flies. You can coat your dry flies when you buy them, for example. Coat them, set them aside, let them dry, then put them in your box. You're still going to have to retreat them, but it kind of puts a semi-permanent waterproofing on those dry flies. So it's real easy. You open up the top of the bottle, stick the fly in there, like I said, either just push it down in, shake it up, or use your Hemos. With this stuff, you're just going to squirt a little bit on your fingers and or on the fly. That's the proper way to use that. And then the powders. I just noticed I didn't grab any of the shake, but let's just pretend this is. The powder floatants are basically crushed up silica gel with a few other ingredients, and it's literally a powder. And you open up the top, you stick your fly down in there, close the top, and then shake the powder. And what that does is it pulls all the water out. This is silica gel. It's just basically the same stuff that comes in your packaging that says "do not eat" this stuff. Well, that's designed to keep moisture and wick moisture away. So the powders are not typically my first line of defense. A powder is going to be what you would use after a fly is waterlogged or you've caught a fish. You're going to stick it in that powder, shake it up, it sucks the water out, and then I'm going to retreat it with either a liquid or gel in some cases, but usually the liquid. Now, it's important not to do this in the reverse. Don't treat it in the liquid and then shake it in the powder. As our good friend Johnny McClure out the slide in, he says it comes out looking like a powdered donut, and you don't want that. So dry it off with the powder first, then retreat with the liquid, and you'll be fine. This is actually a brush-on powder. It's got a brush in here, and this is, I believe it's called ionized silica gel. And this stuff has, you can use it to really get that brush and dig into a fly. It gets down into the dubbing and the hackle and stuff, and does a pretty good job of drying a fly. Again, I would not use it as a first line of defense. It's going to be your liquids or your gel as your first line of defense. And last but not least, this is one of my favorites, and it's called Frog's Fanny. You've heard me talk about this before. You'll hear me talk about it again. But as much as I love the high and dry products, this is good stuff, but the Frog's Fanny works a little bit better. And I don't love this as a fly floatant, and I apologize to Frog's Fanny, but I do love it for coating nymphs and soft tackles. I did a video a little while back. I think we were fishing with Katie Johnstone, one of our guides on the Mad River. In fact, the video is probably right about there, right about now. And I talked about coating my soft tackled flies with this Frog's Fanny. And again, it's a brush applicator. Got that powder there. And you just brush it on the soft tackles, even though it's a wet fly. I fish it in conjunction with a bead-headed nymph, and it causes the fly to ride up here, and it puts this nice sheen all over the fly. So the Frog's Fanny does a great job on if you want to float a nymph, if you want to hang a nymph just below the surface, all kinds of stuff you can do with this Frog's Fanny, but I primarily use it for soft tackles. And there hardly is a day go by when I'm trout fishing that I don't fish soft tackles, so I've always got Frog's Fanny close by. So, David, I hope that helps. As always, if you have any further questions, you can always pick up the phone and give us a call here at the shop. But I hope that helps you make sense of the different fly floatants out there and when to use which. So, next up, this next question is going to reference, I'm going to get these out of the way. Next question is going to reference a video that we put out not too long ago, here in August of 2021. And that video will be linked right about there right now. And it was with our good friend Flip Palette, and it was called Cut the Loop, I believe. And we did a follow-up video since Martin sent me this email, but I thought I'd go ahead and address it here. I told him I would. But Martin Krohn is from Germany, and his address is on a second page that I don't have here, but he's from a town in Germany. And Martin says, I really love watching your videos, and I've learned a lot about fly fishing and how to do it in practice. Please keep going on. Well, Martin, thank you. God willing, and as long as folks keep supporting Mad River Outfitters, we'll keep making videos, so keep watching. I watched your video about leaders several times, and the last one with Flip Palette was amazing. Well, thank you. I did it. I cut off the loop, and I made the snell connection like you and Flip Palette told. It's really very easy. Yes, it is. And I do some casts in the garden with a piece of red wool at the end of the tip so they can see, and my presentations have gotten much better. Well, good. But to be honest, now I'm confused because I don't know how I could change the leader. Cut off where it is knotted and lose a piece of the fly line, and then tie on a new leader, or cut somewhere at the butt section and build a new leader, or cut the butt section close to the fly line and knot a loop in there to make a loop-to-loop connection with a new leader. But then I have a loss of energy, which I want to avoid the knot connection from the leader to the fly line. Please help me out. All right, Martin. Actually, I think we kind of answered those questions in the second episode. I know you've probably already watched it, but I just wanted to make it clear. Your first question, how could I change the leader? Well, if you subscribe to the concept of a contact fly fishing leader and a simple contact fly fishing leader, 3 parts, the butt section's never going to change. You might change the tippet, but that's easy enough to do. And for that matter, with that particular formula that Flip was teaching, you're probably not going to change that one midsection of about 10 to 12 inches. So why would you need to change the leader? With that system, you don't change leaders. You refresh the tippet. Every once in a while, you refresh the midsection, and the butt section is typically permanent. So you're right. We don't want to cut it off where it's knotted multiple times. That doesn't make sense. You would be cutting back into the taper of the fly line. That is true. Although most fly lines have a little, call it a grace period at the end, so you can tie a few of them, but you don't want to be, every time you want to change a leader, you don't want to be cutting it and tying a new snell or a nail knot there. Can you cut off somewhere at the butt section and build a new leader? Sure, absolutely. But the point again is that the butt section never changes. A good leader starts in the butt. Remember that. And it stays in the butt. It's all about the butt. Your butt section never changes. That's dictated by the tip of the fly line. Or could you cut the butt section close to the fly line and knot a loop in there to make a loop-to-loop connection with a new leader? Yes, you can do that. And in fact, we have taught that, and we have a video. I bet you didn't guess that, but we have a video, and right about there is that video. It's called How to Fix Your Broken Loop in case you broke your loop. But it's the same concept. You're going to snell a proper diameter and stiffness piece of monofilament on there. You're going to put a perfection loop, and then you can go to loop, and you got rid of that evil loop, as Flip calls them. You got rid of that weight and mass at the tip of the fly line, and now you're getting the energy into the butt section of the leader properly, and then if you want to loop on a leader from there, you can, but again, I don't think you need to. And yes, you'll have a little bit of a loss of energy going monofilament loop to monofilament loop. It does create a flat spot, but it's not nearly as bad as fly line, loop and fly line to loop in the leader. It's not nearly as bad. I can live with some loops from time to time, in monofilament loop-to-loop, but not with the loop in the tip of the fly line. So, and you said you wanted to avoid that. So I hope that helps. And for those of you that haven't seen the video, I hope that helps. Maybe you'll come back and watch this. But Martin, make sure if you haven't seen it yet that you watch the second episode, because I think we did a pretty good job of answering some of those questions, concerns, and summarizing. So there you go, Martin. I appreciate you all the way from Germany, which is where some of my ancestors come from as well. And guess what? We are not afraid to send a free hat and a fly box to Germany. We ship all over the world here at Mad River Outfitters. And heck, Germany, you guys are like neighbors. What's that? Auf Wiedersehen. Auf Wiedersehen. So there you have it. Brian Flechsig here from Mad River Outfitters. That's about the extent of the German that I know, Martin. I apologize. But really, man, thanks. I think you and I have communicated quite a few times via email. I know you can't pick up the phone and call me necessarily. Well, maybe you can. If you can, call me. Let's chat sometime, and anytime you have questions. As always, friends, remember, please remember, that although we do monitor comments on YouTube, I have to work here at Mad River Outfitters and answer the emails and the telephones here at Mad River Outfitters. There's no way I can answer all of your questions on YouTube. So if you have questions, you need to send them to admin@madriveroutfitters.com. And if you really have questions and you would like some of the best customer service in the industry, pick up the telephone and give us a call. We're here to help. That's what we do. And if you want your question answered here on YouTube, it's going to have to come via admin@madriveroutfitters.com. That's the only way I'm going to see it. I apologize. I'm not on social media, and I just don't make it to the YouTube comments because I got to work and make videos. Thanks to you all and your support. So we really appreciate the support, friends. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for all the emails. Thanks for all the phone calls and your participation in Mad River Outfitters and our YouTube channel. I know we say it, but please know that we mean it and really appreciate all of you. So, as always, be sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and don't go anywhere because we've got a lot more coming at you. Auf Wiedersehen. Right?
What?
Auf Wiedersehen. Wiedersehen.
That's how you say goodbye in German.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. That's so funny.